start the talking part of our assembly in just a moment, but we have a treat for you to start off. Mr. Jimmy Highsmith is going to play a rendition of America the Beautiful. So let's have Jimmy join us. Please listen. That was Mr. Highsmith, who is a veteran of the United States Air Force. And he served in Germany, Honduras, and during Operation Desert Storm. So thank you, Jimmy. All right, so we're going to get it started here. And welcome to today's Veterans Day Assembly. Thanks to our Student Council for hosting this special event, and to Mrs. Green and Mrs. Liebel for helping take care of the logistics, and especially to our veterans who are joining us here today. We will hear from them in a few moments. But Veterans Day was first recognized by President Woodrow Wilson in 1919. The day was originally known as Armistice Day and marked the end of World War I, which occurred on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. In 1954, President Dwight Eisenhower changed the name to Veterans Day as a way to honor all veterans who continue, and we continue to honor our veterans today. Unfortunately, throughout our history, veterans have not always been treated with kindness and respect they deserve. And veterans returning home from fighting the Vietnam War were treated particularly poorly. Thankfully, in recent years, our nation's treatment of veterans has improved. And today we have time to honor many of our own relatives and neighbors, and especially the 8 of our own American veterans that are with us today for their patriotism, love of country, and their willingness to serve and sacrifice for all of us. So tomorrow you have a Veterans Day off. During your day off, go ahead and sleep in a little bit, watch some TV, play outside with your friends, maybe get caught up on a little schoolwork. But please pause and take time to remember a veteran you may know. Excuse me. Think about the messages you hear today and the veterans that I'll speak. Nothing I can say can express how appreciative we are for the veterans on the stage, but your respectful audience behavior and full attention will speak louder than words. So I'd like to introduce our first speaker today, and that is Mr. Christopher Montulli. Mr. Montulli is a social studies teacher on staff, and he served in the United States Navy and was stationed in San Diego and Japan, correct?
Not Japan.
Okay, all right. But here you go. Here's Mr. Montulli. Thank you.
So, I joined the Navy when I was 20 years old, and I served for 6 years. I was stationed in San Diego, I was stationed in Chicago, I was stationed in Virginia, I was stationed in several places around the United States, but I've also been deployed overseas to the Persian Gulf, Southeast Asia, Central and South America, and so forth. I honestly wish more young people took advantage of serving their country or their communities. There's a number of things that people gain when they do this. As I said, I've been stationed across the United States. I got to see the world and I had a great experience, but the Navy also gave me a sense of purpose, drive, and confidence to take on challenges that I didn't have before I enlisted. It also gave me an appreciation for many things we take for granted here in America. Our safety and our security, our access to education, and our standard of living are just a few of those things. When you see firsthand the situation that many people in this world are dealing with on a daily basis, you begin to understand how fortunate we are here in so many areas of our lives. It also gave me an appreciation for the diverse backgrounds of all Americans. I served with and became great friends with people who had very different life experiences and views than I did, than I grew up with. And when you do this, you start to realize that as different as we may seem, and as different as we look to each other, we have a lot more in common. When you are trying to complete a task or complete a mission, nobody really cares about your background, your skin color, or your politics. Can you be relied on to get the job done? That's what matters the most in those situations. And I've really found out that's what matters most in a lot of situations in life. So I consider myself fortunate to have had the opportunity to serve in the Navy, but I'm also extremely fortunate for the lessons that I learned through the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mansuli. Our next speaker is also a teacher in the Brighton Central School District, and it is Mr. Chris French. Mr. French teaches technology at Brighton High School. Mr. French is a veteran of the United States Army, and he served 4 years from 1985 to 1988. He rose to the rank of an E4, and he served in Germany. Mr. French.
Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you for coming to the assembly today. And I joined the Army when I was 17. I had to have my parents sign a waiver. I graduated high school when I was 17, but they signed a waiver so that I could actually enlist, because you have to be 18 without a waiver. And I wanted to go to Germany, and I wanted to work with nuclear weapons. And who knows why at that time that I wanted to do that. I wasn't really sure, but I knew I would be with other soldiers that also were willing to and had the same goal in mind as I did. And we all worked together. It didn't matter what you looked like, what religion, what you wore, etc. Yeah, we were all camouflaged at the time, and we all always worked together. We always had each other's backs, no matter what. And I still stay in touch with many of the soldiers I served with. So Veterans Day reminds me of my friends and the bond we had and the same goals of defending our country. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Our next veteran will speak is Mrs. Erica Stanton, who is a Brighton resident and has children in the Brighton Central School District. Mrs. Stanton also served in the United States Army and served for 5.5 years of active duty, raised to the rank of Major, and she participated in training exercises in Japan and Thailand. Please welcome Mrs. Stanton.
Thank you all for being here today. I was a lawyer in the Army, but rather than talk with you about my experiences today, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit more about what Veterans Day means. And in thinking about what to talk with you about, I was reflecting on a speech that General Douglas MacArthur gave at West Point when he was receiving an award. Now, General Douglas MacArthur, for those who don't know, is a famous Army general who led our troops during World War II. In General MacArthur's speech, he repeated 3 words over and over and over again at different points in his speech. Anybody know what those words were? All right, those words were duty, honor, and country. When he received his award, he talked about what his service meant to him and how those three words, duty, honor, and country, guided him and the fellow soldiers, sailors, and Marines with whom he served. He said that those three words remind us to stand up for what is right and to show restraint from what is wrong. Those words are all about character. Think about them again: duty, honor, and country. They remind us to be brave, and brave enough to face really scary situations when we're honestly afraid. They remind us to be humble and gentle when we succeed, and to be courageous enough to stand up and lean into challenges even when we know we might fail. Those three words remind us about having a heart that is clean, thinking about what is right and what your purpose is, and having a high goal. Those three words teach us that it's okay to laugh and have fun, so long as we still remember to have empathy and compassion. And finally, those three words are all about reaching for the brightest of futures without ever forgetting our past. So as you think about veterans who you might know, if you have a chance to thank somebody tomorrow, think about those three things: duty, honor, and country, and what they might mean to the veterans that you're speaking with. Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Stanton. Our next veteran is Jackie Highsmith. And if you're paying attention, Highsmith, it's Jimmy's daughter.
Oh.
So Ms. Highsmith served in the U.S. Navy for 8 years, raised to the rank of E4, and was stationed in Washington, D.C., and helped with the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards that you guys take in gym sometimes. She also served in Okinawa, Japan, and Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, and also in California. Please welcome Ms. Highsmith.
So, I started off my big Navy adventure straight out of high school. So I was 18 when I went into the Navy. I had a lot of fun. You meet a lot and different people. I met my best friends there. Veterans Day is really special to me because I'm able to call up my brothers and sisters that we're family. Once you go into the military, you'll always be family. These are my family. We get to call every year on Veterans Day, and we say Happy Veterans Day. We'll ask them how they're doing. And we'll talk about all our adventures that we had. So this is a very special day for me because, once again, it's just all about family and recognizing what we did and the big adventures we had. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Highsmith. Okay, our next veteran to speak is Dr. Mort Stein. In addition, I'll get to what his veteran credentials in a second, but Mr. Stein taught in Brighton Central Schools for 33 years. He was a teacher here when I started my career. He also served on our Board of Education. So Mr. Stein served in the United States Army, in the New York Guard. He served for 4 years, raised to the rank of lieutenant, and his deployments were here in the United States. Please welcome Mr. Stein.
Thank you, Dr. Malloy, and thank all of you for inviting us here to share our experience as well as what Veterans Day means to us as veterans. I served in the United States. I did not have the opportunity to go overseas. I was stationed mainly here in New York in 123rd Infantry, and I did all my training at Camp Smith, which is just outside of New York City. Veterans Day is important to me because it reminds me of the men and women who gave some and gave all. Especially those who gave all, because there are three individuals that are extremely close to me and I miss intensely. As Dr. Malloy said, yes, I taught here at 12 Corners Middle School for 33 years. And I had a student, his name is Eric Smith. At that time, 12 Corners Middle School was a 5-8 school, not just a 6-8. And I had the opportunity to be Eric's teacher in the 5th and 6th grade. How many of you, when you go into the town hall, notice as you walk up the walkway, there is a black marble bench? And I hope you stop and take a look at it and read it. It's dedicated to Eric Smith, who was killed in Afghanistan in a helicopter crash. He was one of my students. He used to sit in one of those seats at one time. One of you could be sitting in the seat that he sat in. And I stop and think about what he gave to you and to me to be free and be able to sit in his seat. I also taught at Nazareth College for 25 years as an adjunct professor. And I lost 2 of my graduate students, one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. And they were just finishing up their program to become teachers. So unfortunately, children will not have the opportunity to be taught by these 2 young men. And that's why Veterans Day is important to me, because it brings home the message of what they did and what they gave, so we can all be sitting here today.
Thank you, Dr. Stein. Okay, our next veteran to speak is Mr. Gary Ginsberg. Mr. Ginsberg served in the United States Army for 32 years. He raised to the rank of Commander Sergeant Major and served in the United States and overseas. Please welcome Mr. Ginsberg.
Good afternoon. I'm not sure if you're more excited than perhaps we are, because it's really an honor to be here and to just speak for a few minutes to the students of this community. I did serve 32 years in the Army, and it was in the States, it was overseas. We got to do a lot of different things. And one point I'll make about serving overseas is, yes, we're still working on things to improve the United States of America, but if you've ever been in some of these other countries, you know that compared to some of these other places around the world, America is really a great place. It truly is a special nation. And the other point I would make is I've had opportunities as far as schooling and operations and leadership and whatnot, but you form lifelong friendships. And my very first trip of any significance, my first airplane ride after the pandemic was in June of this year. And I got on a plane, and I don't do this all the time, but I got on a plane, I flew down to New York City, and then I had lunch with some Army buddies 17 miles east of JFK Airport. And somebody said to me, why do you do that? Well, we have special friendships in the military. And as people get older, I guess those things are important. So that's what I did. But I will share something else with you about the Army. In fact, all the military services have core values. My favorite, of course, is the Army, because that's my background. And some of these core values, I'm going to throw some words out there, and you probably know what these words mean, but they actually can help you live your life even as a civilian, because I'm not here, as a recruiter. I think some of you are 12 or 13, you're a little bit too young to join the military. But when you look at the nation today, with everything that's going on, yes, we probably need a little bit more integrity, a little bit more respect, selfless service. These are some of the Army core values, and these are some words, ideas, and phrases that can help you be successful regardless of what you do. You see, only about 6 or 7% of the American people, out of 330 million, only about 7% have served in the military. So it is something to think about, but again, you all know what Google search is? Yes, okay. We didn't have that when I was your age. I I don't even think we had cell phones or high-definition television, but it is something you might want to do sometime. If you were to do a Google search on the core values of the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, you'll see they're not exactly the same, but there's a lot of overlap. And those words can guide you, I believe, to a successful life, whatever you may do, whatever you choose to do. I know, for example, serving overseas, I mean, I spent some time in Germany. In those days, I spoke pretty good German. And the first thing that happens when you study a foreign language is you learn your own language better. And we don't really speak English. The British speak proper English. We speak American. But in any case, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But yes, I ask that you pause and reflect upon the veterans that have served honorably in defense of this nation tomorrow, even for a few seconds. Because from what I've seen in other countries around the world, this is truly a special place, and a lot of that has to do with our veterans. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ginsburg. Our next veteran to speak is Mr. Larry Shulman. Mr. Shulman served in the United States Army from 1958 to 1961, rose to the rank of Specialist Force Class, and had deployments in Oklahoma and also in Germany. Please welcome Mr. Shulman.
Good afternoon. It's an honor to be here. I was in the service during peacetime, so I'm called a peacetime veteran. However, even though I was in during peacetime, we still had a job to do. As usual, in the Army, everybody's working for the same purpose. Some of the purposes are get out of there. Other than that, we're trying very hard to support our country and to keep things going as far as the Army is concerned. In Fort Sill, Oklahoma, I was in an artillery outfit, 2nd Howitzer Battalion, 2nd Artillery. I was in the personnel department, but every once in a while you would hear these little things go overhead and make a big noise. And we knew that the active fighters were still fighting and learning how to operate the equipment. In Germany, I was in Ludwigsburg, Germany, and we were attached to the 7th Army. And basically, we were in a headquarters outfit, and we were trying to keep things going. I was in a signal outfit, and basically they were stringing wires every time they went out on maneuvers. So each one of us had a very important job to do, even though it was peacetime. We were learning how to be military people. And basically, the lessons carry on to our civilian life. So if anybody's interested, the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines are a good place to be. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Shulman. And our next speaker is Mr. Stuart Bloom. Here, just let me organize my papers. Mr. Bloom served in the U.S. military in both the Navy and the Marine Corps for 20 years. He rose to he was a damage control man. That was his rank, and he served in Vietnam in a riverboat, and he was also in the submarine service from 1965 to 1981 when he retired. Please welcome Mr. Bloom.
Well, this is my 3rd time at this program, and I'm really thrilled to be here. I just want to say, I went into the Navy in 1961, basic training, Great Lakes, Illinois, and then my service school came in where I learned how to be a damage controlman in Bainbridge, Maryland. When I graduated from Bainbridge, I went aboard a U.S. Naval minesweeper. Minesweeper is a not compared to what you see today. There's no longer any minesweepers left in the Navy. 172-foot wooden ship. And they're not very, they're seaworthy, but they're kind of scary because they creak. But anyhow, the first time I went, we ended up in the Cuban blockade, which was when we had the blockade against Cuba in 1962-63, where we almost was annihilation of the world between Kennedy and Khrushchev. After my service with on the minesweeper, I went to submarine school and graduated from sub school. I was home here in Rochester, and this is where my story gets interesting. A couple of you probably heard it, the people that are here before. I was home here in Rochester after I graduated, had orders from my first submarine. And I couldn't get there because, due to a bad storm. Back in the early 60s, planes didn't fly when it stormed like it does now, like they do now. Anyhow, I missed the boat. Well, the boat never came home. The boat is laying in the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. You look in history, it was the USS Thresher. It imploded while on maneuvers. And I said to myself, do I want to go on these things? I ended up volunteering to go to Vietnam. I was on the river boats in Vietnam, up and down the Mekong River, trying to stop supplies the Viet Cong were giving to their comrades to help to stop us. Well, I was wounded, and when I woke up, I was in the Naval Hospital, Charleston, South Carolina. I ended up, after I was recuperated, I went back and served another almost 20 years on board submarine. I retired as a first-class damage controlman from the USS San Bolivar. What does Veterans Day mean to me? Veterans Day means a lot. When I went to Vietnam, there were 15 of us that went over. I'm one of 5 that came home. I think of these men all the time. And Veterans Day is a very sad day for me. So if you see a veteran or hear of any veterans, thank them. They earned it. Thank you for letting me participate in this program.
Okay, and our last speaker today will be Mr. Highsmith, who opened up our festivities this morning. I'm sorry, I lost your sheet, Jimmy. He can introduce himself. Air Force veteran.
Thank you, Dr. Malloy. So I guess I'm the only Air Force downstairs today, huh? Listen, they're all wonderful services to join. I went to college first and decided I wanted to go to the military in 1987. And I initially joined the Air Force Band, which I did not like. So I ended up going into Air Force Intelligence and Logistics, and I had a marvelous time. Like others had said, you find new family, brothers and sisters, different backgrounds, different racial backgrounds, but it's a camaraderie that you have as a military member that is unmatched. You know, I recognize vets anywhere in the world. We have a certain posture that we share, and I appreciate them all. Veterans Day is special to me because it's an opportunity to, again, celebrate people who've sacrificed everything for this country. I love this country, and I'm proud to be a veteran. My Air Force career, 10 years, I traveled to 3 continents. You know, my job, I worked during humanitarian missions and during wartime missions, so I was always doing something, and I appreciate the opportunity to see other places in this world. And I would encourage anybody to join the military. Regardless of what branch you want to join, Air Force, Army, Navy, Marine, they're all great, or Coast Guard, you know. College is also wonderful. My daughter went to the Navy, got out of the Navy, used her GI Bill to pay for a nursing degree. Now she's a nurse. Just like that. The military will teach you a lot of things. One thing which is work ethic, patriotism, integrity, you know, work skills that are direly needed nowadays. So I mean, again, If you're not sure about college, consider the military. Consider the military. There's a lot of opportunities out there for you in the military to broaden your horizon and meet a lot of new people and see a lot of great things in the world. So with that said, thank you very much.
Seventh graders, that's pretty much conclude our assembly. We only have a few minutes left in the period, but Pepsi, I did want to say, as I said in the beginning, so tomorrow you do have the day off. If you do know of any veterans, anybody in your family, actually I did want to do one thing. Does anybody have, raise your hand if you have a family member who is currently serving in the military? Please thank them tomorrow when you see them and say hello or thank you to any veterans that you have or that you're aware of. And you know, you do have the day off tomorrow, but please take just a few moments to remember the words that were said at this assembly today and what the veterans have shared with us. Thank you very much.